Welcome to the next in the series of the Connected Match Officials series. Today we are delighted to be joined by one of our full-time referees, Karl Dickson. Karl, as most of you would know, is a former professional player, so has a 13-year career playing with Harlequins and Bedford. He's nearing 50 Premiership appearances as a referee. He was part of the match official team at the 2019 World Cup, has refereed in the Heineken's Champions Cup, and in October 2020 made his Tier 1 Test debut where he refereed France versus Wales. Karl, quite a career developing here. How's things going?
Very well, thank you. Always a pleasure to come back on a Zoom / Teams meeting, as we're doing now. You know, it seems COVID-like, but very well, thank you. And it's good that rugby's still occurring.
Mate, how have you found it this past sort of 6-8 months as a referee? What have been the challenges for you?
I think probably the biggest challenge is for us, and it's probably a little bit surprising, is that obviously there's no crowd with the players as well. It's probably affected it because, you know, as well as the players feeling the atmosphere in the game, it's the same for us as well, and it can kind of heighten your alertness to situations, and obviously it just makes it that little bit more enjoyable when you have crowds in the stadiums and that noise and, you know, that ambiance where, you know, that's what you crave and that's what you want to be part of, and that's why you stay in the sport.
So fingers crossed we're not that far away from crowds now. So yeah, maybe get some encouraging tones from the stands shortly, mate.
I mean, on the flip side, the encouragement is not so much. So, you know.
Brilliant. Okay, so look, today we're going to talk through some technical updates, and we've already covered the safety kind of thing with Wayne a few weeks ago where we looked at the head contact process. Today with yourself, we're going to look at speed and space. Okay, so we're going to move into those sections shortly now. So Karl, just firstly from me, we're going to look at a number of clips in a moment and get your expert insight on those. But what are we looking at in terms of speed, mate? What's the updates here for us? What's the technical focus been this season?
So what we've really been looking at this year is, you know, nothing has changed too much. I think that's probably the key message. We're just probably looking a little bit deeper into how we can improve the speed of the game. So obviously we're looking at tackler, which I don't think has ever really changed, with the tackler rolling east-west and not trying to go into the attacking nine, come in to play that ball. So we get good quick ball, which leads to an entertaining game. And then with the jackler or the assist tackler to obviously show that clear release and then be in a really strong position over the ball and trying to lift the ball, not just trying to clamp on. The only caveat to that part is if they're in that squeeze ball defensive position, where if they're in that squeeze ball, we're looking for you to clamp round the ball. Again, not just on the body, clamp round the ball and still trying to lift, but obviously it's going to be very difficult to lift the ball when it's underneath someone's body. But we're looking for him to be in that strong position, supporting that body weight, not going past the ball. And then probably the area which is, you know, is more or less kind of more focus on now than it probably has been in the past, is that these clear side entries. And what I mean by clear is we're looking at things where players have almost run past the breakdown and can't get back round to come to the back foot. And the only way they can clear the jackler is from the side. And obviously the stipulations and the management side comes in when players are rolling east or west, and your standard that you're going to set at the start of the game for a side entry penalty. Because obviously if players are moving east and west, it's obviously going to take a lot longer for you to get all the way around and clear a jackler. So there's got to be that sort of management part on that bit as well.
Just a question on the side entry. What's your kind of threshold for side entry? Somebody described it to me a couple of weeks ago as, if you imagine a clock face, then we're probably looking at a 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock entry point. Is that something you're familiar with or use, or is you got a different thing that you kind of guide?
I mean, you're looking at, you know, similar as in, you know, your numbers pointing at the touch lines. So if you can see their number point at the touch line, normally that gives you a good indicator. Again, the only caveat to that is we use this thing called the L shape. Sometimes they can look like they come in at the side, but they drive in straight and then drive around the corner. So the end picture looks like it's side entry, but actually it's not perfectly legal. So I tend to, some of the big keys for me is when you normally get a mini line break or a player has overrun the breakdown and there's no way they can get back round to clear that jackler. So the only way they can do it is taking the shortcut.
Excellent. Okay, thanks, mate. Right, we'll move on to the first couple of clips then, if that's okay, Reece.
Ribbons. And a penalty forthcoming with Clegg trapped in a position.
What's the focus here? What are you seeing?
So obviously without the breakdown, we want tacklers to make the tackle, obviously a nice legal tackle, and roll, as we mentioned, east to west. They can't hang around the tackle zone. We want the nines to be able to come in and get the ball away to increase the speed of the breakdown. And you can clearly see from that clip, the player makes a good tackle. However, he falls on that wrong side, and he prevents the ball coming as quick as it should be, which is what we're trying to prevent now. And that's hence why the referee blew a very good not rolling away penalty with number 4 on the wrong side, because you can see where the 9 stood above the breakdown, kind of waiting for that ball.
Yeah, brilliant. So the point there as well is that Jackler's done nothing wrong, has he, either? But it's the fact that the tackler's not rolled is what we're saying there.
And I think you hear quite a lot now in the game where the Jackler, you were fine. However, you've got a player on the wrong side preventing the ball from coming. So that's the reason why you got on the ball so easily with no one coming in to clear out.
And I've seen a lot of the Premiership games recently where you guys have been really doing some good explanations here. Is that something as a group you're focusing on? So, look, telling that Jackler that it's not you've done nothing wrong, but I can't reward you here because this player's not rolled away. Yeah,
exactly. And I think it makes it more of an understandable decision to a supporter or a TV viewer, that if you explain it like that and to the player, which they understand, we want to encourage people to compete at the breakdown. We want that because, you know, it's a competition game, but they've got to be able to do it in a way where the first priority for us is the players rolling out the way. And you'll see a lot of really good sevens will come into the breakdown, have a little look, and then they'll move back out because they realise there's a player on the wrong side. And a lot of teams have adapted to this.
Excellent. Thank you.
Just outside the 22. Can they make some inroads here? No, they can't.
No, 6, no.
Excellent tackle around by the ankles from Cleo.
This is a good example of, you know, we want to increase the speed of the ball. Player makes a very good tackle, but unfortunately falls underneath the player wanting to present the ball, and it just slows it down. And again, we want to encourage that quick ball. The 9's there waiting for the ball. It's a very good tackle, but unfortunately, if you put yourself that side and can't get out of the way quick enough, we're going to probably be more likely, especially at the start of the games, blowing these not rolling away, to set a good standard and encourage that speed of ball.
There's a really interesting point there around certainly at the start of the game, mate. What are we looking to do the first sort of 15-20 minutes in terms of setting up the breakdown? What's your sort of philosophy focus there?
So my philosophy and a lot of referees' philosophies is we obviously want to encourage a good quick game. So therefore, our first focus is on removing the tackler. If the tackler moves out of the way, then we can move on to the jackler. But if there's a tackler around there, for us, it's about we want to encourage that quick ball. So therefore, we're not even going to worry about a jackal situation. We want to get this person out of the way. So therefore, they know our standard. If you fall on the wrong side, you've got to roll that east to west and get out of the way so we can get the ball away. And I think that's really key in the first 10, 15 minutes is set your standard out, not necessarily go looking for it and not set a standard that you can't maintain through the game. But we want to set our stall out and encourage a good, entertaining, quick game.
Being a former 9, is this something you're hotter on because you maybe thought, you know, when you was a player, you always used to ask referees to get the players out of the way, maybe?
I wouldn't say I was hotter on it. I think you're used to coming into that position and you can see players. If I was looking to pass the ball now, is there someone there preventing it? And if there clearly is. Now, obviously, there's going to be that time where you might wait a split second. It's not a case of you're on the wrong side, I'm going to blow. Give them that split second to try and move. And sometimes there might be a player on the wrong side, but the ball is clearly available and we don't need to blow it. And we can play through it because the ball's there still to be played. So you've got to be able to know when to blow your whistle and know when to just play through it, because the ball's there to be played and the 9 can clearly get the ball away, even though there's someone on the wrong side.
Yeah, excellent.
Just with your player hat on, Karl, does that add to your empathy with the players in any way?
I think it would add to your empathy and the fact that you understand what players are trying to achieve and what players are trying to do. And I guess it's trying to find that balance between obviously implementing the law and what we're trying to achieve, but also kind of having that empathy with it. But you can't go too empathetic, or you end up with just, really slow ball, and then obviously it disrupts the game. So I think when it comes to the explanation and the challenge to players, I think they kind of get it a little bit more. And as we mentioned before, I think players are really kind of adapting to this.
Dombrandt, he's quickly back to his bruising best. There's another penalty coming, another Sale penalty. Half. Let's just have another look at this. He's been pulled in fact, by Dombrandt, and then pushed in by the scrum half. So I think that's one that's been earned by.
Got one of your former side here, mate.
So again, this from a normal perspective, good carry, 12 red on the wrong side, looks to be rolling away, and then when you get a clear replay of it, you can clearly see that 12 Harlequins, or is it 12 or 8, has pulled him back into the breakdown. Now, this on a community side sort of game would be very difficult to pick up. The most obvious picture is the fact it's not rolling away, and you're more likely to penalise the red player. But if you can clearly get into a position and see that, then you can verbalise it. So people understand, no, you've held him in there, we're going to play through. Or on the other side, listen, you can't hold him in there and penalise either way, penalise the Harlequins player here for holding someone into the breakdown, which they're not allowed to do. So that's the management side. Personally, it'd be very difficult to see, and you're more likely to penalise than not rolling away because of the picture you have.
And what's your view on we talked a bit earlier around you make this type of tackle, so you might end up on this side. What's your responsibility there? And if you actually end up on that side, sometimes you're going to get the decision against you anyway, aren't you?
Yeah, and it comes down to tackle choice. I mean, I always use a phrase that you choose to tackle that way. So where you end up, it's your responsibility to move. Now, what the red player does here really well, which again is difficult to pick up, he actually does land the wrong side and clearly makes a really good effort to roll. And if he hadn't been pulled back in, the ball would have been there to play away. So if they make a really good effort to roll out the way, then it's great for us, because we can clearly go, listen, he's made a great effort to roll out the way. The ball is clearly available. 9, if he tries making a meal out of it and falls him over, you go, listen, don't buy a penalty. Let's play on.
Fantastic.
Now on the centre of the pitch for the hard carry up to the 22. Sarries go. This is better from the reigning champions. Packer now around the corner.
From the players not rolling away, as we mentioned before, we're looking for players to come in, arrive, and target the ball. So you want them to be there on their feet and targeting the ball in that strong position. And in this clip, you can see the Loughborough girl is not supporting her body weight. Her first action is to go down. Her hands are beyond the ball. So they're not even targeting the ball, they're beyond the ball, clearly not supporting her body weight. And then once she's cleared by the Saracens player, her second go at it is upright and onto the ball. So we'd be penalising the off feet here. And what we've got to make sure is we've got to not get confused with sometimes a hand on the floor or hand on the floor in and around the ball can be, we're searching for the ball, because obviously the tackler might still be moving into position to present. So you can search for the ball. What you can't do is go past the ball or beyond off your feet. And that's what she did here. So it's again finding that balance of off feet. And listen, if she goes off feet and doesn't do anything and the ball is really quickly available, then we can happily play through. But again, start the game, setting up the game well, we might want to take one of these decisions just to set that standard.
Yeah, Okay, really good explanation there. Thanks, mate.
What's the at sort of at community level? Where's that line between trying to manage that player away from the ball and giving that advantage or giving that penalty? What are the indicators for you as to when that ball has been affected?
Well, for me, it's the speed of the ball, and you see here her second goal actually moves the ball into a different position and almost out of the ruck. So that's a clear indication for me that it's been interfered. If she plays the ball and by the time someone gets there to pass it, then I'm probably going to have that in my head, right, okay, that's maybe one I can play through. And then again, if it happens again, okay, maybe I might, and it's about that management. We don't want to just blow the whistle every time there's a potential infringement, because the breakdown is so grey. You know, people say, oh, is there an offence here, is an offence there? We've got to be good enough to manage it as well as penalise. So it's knowing when to blow the whistle and when not. And obviously we can use our voice as well. You know, if he gets in there and is like, no 6, and she moves out the way literally instantly, well, then it's great. But again, on the flip side, we don't want to be managing the whole game by using our voice, because then our voice becomes redundant and you get the situation where you might manage Loughborough 5 or 6 times, but you've only managed Saracens twice. Yeah. So there's that equity kind of thing as well with the management.
Oh.
First man on his feet, no clear out.
Yeah, it's normally.
So again, obviously we're looking at the Jackler. Really good line break from Wasps. Really good tackle, moves out the way. Tom Curry comes in a really strong position. Clear lift of the ball, which we're looking for, that clear lift, trying to steal it. And he does a great job. And what we want to try and do is reward him earlier, almost reward him before the 7 gets in there. Because again, I know we've touched on that safety part before in previous ones, but what we're trying to stop is that late arrival coming in and trying to take the jacker out, which potentially can lead to injuries. If we reward him that little bit quicker, because he's in a good position, no one's there to clear him, then it helps us with the safety part, but then also with the speed part.
And that's a really good point there. So you've talked about rewarding earlier, and I've watched a lot of it this year where you guys are really giving that holding on really quickly. And I've noticed this year that I can't remember the last time I heard a referee say, well, he hasn't survived the clear out. Why is that? What's the reason for that?
Yeah, and the reason is obviously with the safety part as well, and the speed is we used to let literally the jackler go over the ball, almost rather than lifting it, just clamp, and then you'd have 2 or 3 blokes come in to try and clear him out, and we'd go, sorry, you didn't survive the clear out. And what we found is from a lot of information we were given that this led to more and more injuries, because you've got one guy over the ball in a not vulnerable position, but in a exposed position, and then you have 3 big guys, you know, a lot of weight coming in to almost blast him out of the way, which is what we're trying to prevent now. So that's why we're not saying it's get over the ball, a little lift, we're going to blow the whistle instantly. We still want that competition, but you're just trying to find that balance of when to blow the whistle. So it's almost get there, 1, okay, now I'm going to blow, rather than get there, blow, just because we still want that kind of competition in there as well. And if a clearer can come in and clear someone, obviously not from that clear distance, then we still want that competition.
Yeah. And the focus for you guys is then you actually want to see that clear lift. If you see it, you're going to reward it. If you don't, what would you say if you don't see that clear lift? If you just got the guy who's just probably trying to pin the ball?
Again, and this is sometimes difficult because pictures, you know, we say paint 1,000 words. Whereas if they look like they're over the ball in a strong position, you might think he has lifted. And again, this can happen in the community game, the professional game. You might think they have lifted the ball because obviously there's a lot of bodies around there. But the picture you're getting looks really good for a good, strong holding on penalty. But what you can do is if a player is just clamping and you have a clear view of it, then, you know, and it's a touch and go 50-50 whether you get rewarding, go, listen, sorry, I just didn't see that clear lift. And you hear some of the referees saying it. The caveat to that is obviously, and again, I think people have heard it in the professional game, is when that ball carrier goes into the squeeze ball position, the jackler coming in, obviously it's very difficult to lift a ball which is attached to a ball carrier's body. So as long as the jackler comes in and clamps around the ball onto the body, then we're going to more likely reward that, because the ball carrier has chosen to go into that defensive position to protect the ball and give his arriving clearers that little bit extra time to come and help him.
Tuala for Ludlam. Strong defensive work. Lawrence for a minute looking to lift and affect the turnover. They've got the penalty. It's just that threat of Lawrence reloading back to his feet. Very isolated. Northampton.
5 Saints.
Brilliant carrying in all of that, both sides. Lawrence started it with a big...
This is probably an area where a lot of referees have had to sort of change slightly for side entry. So you see a tackle has been made, and then I think it's Northampton 6 clearly hasn't come back round and gone through the gate. He's almost come straight in at the side. And, you know, what we use is you almost can see his number is pointing towards the touch lines. So he's clearly come in that side and taken out a potential jackler. Now, if he hadn't have done that and gone all the way round, then that jackler would have been in a position to potentially steal the ball. Some key sort of focuses for us is sometimes that clearers overrun the breakdown, and there's no way he can get back round to make a good clear, so he takes that shortcut.
Yeah.
Again, this has been where referees have kind of probably had to adapt more so now, because in the past we probably let this go a little bit for the speed of ball and the continuity of play, but now we're being asked to pick this up. And, you know, obviously, but again, there's still that management in there, whereas if you have a player coming in who's made the tackle, he's rolling that east to west, and the clearer comes in at that 45-degree angle, then we're probably going to play on, because again, it's not that really clear and obvious. This one was really clear, number pointing at the pointing at the touch lines, and it makes it nice and easy. Where we've got to be careful is, you know, we use a phrase called the L shape, where they come in straight, clear them out, and then end up with their number pointing at the touchline. So it looks like it's side entry, but actually it's really, really a good clear, and they've taken that player away from the breakdown.
Yeah. So the point of entry for you is the key thing, where they've actually come in from, the point of entry. Yeah.
Point of entry is the key part, not where they end up.
The World Cup. Here's Ford on there to Farrell.
In front. Extra roll.
An additional roll there from Johnny May.
And that's an example of some of the laws which are changing, which is difficult to get out, because, you know, we're so used to training and teaching kids, you know, if you're under pressure, do that extra roll, but you're not allowed to now. As soon as you hit the ground, you've got to release.
Okay, and then last clip in terms of this section that we're focusing on, the speed. We've been asked to look at the ball carriers now and the way they're rolling. So just talk us through this one and what effect this is having on the game, and why you're being asked to sort of sanction these ones, Karl, mate. Yeah.
So again, it's a slight change for us. You probably haven't seen it too much in the past, but again, it's similar to the squeeze ball, where this extra roll, which you see from, and is it Johnny May here, gives a little bit of extra time for his clearers to come through, but also prevents that jackler in a good, strong position for competing it. Because you see, I think it's George North is in a great position to compete for the ball, and he would have potentially got on the ball, but with that extra roll, it takes him away, and therefore he can't go on the ball. Yeah. And the second part, obviously, is it changes the offside line. So rather than it being a metre the other way, defenders have to move a little bit further back and go run that little bit of extra distance to get set for the next phase. So it's to prevent the jackler getting on the offside line. So that's where we've been asked to focus again. So once you're tackled and you're clearly held to ground, you must present the ball straight away, rather than taking that extra roll to gain advantage over the other team.
And that's it for part 1. We hope you enjoyed. Join us next time when Karl will run us through another key focus for this year's professional game match official team.